Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Millie, I don't think you know, I'm from Washington State too. And I used to live with my parents in Olympia, Washington. Lacey, actually. You know where Olympia is, right? And then Wade and I, we went to college together many years ago. We're not going to say how many years ago. Um, but I do miss Washington State. I've been living in New York for a long time now.
Yeah, I've never been in New York before.
Yeah, and everything is quite different with the social distancing. It's kind of, I live near where Wall Street is, in the stock market. So usually there's tons and tons of people. And when I look out the window, it's just weird not to see anybody on the street.
Yeah.
But have you ever wanted to come visit New York? I mean, before the virus?
Yeah, it seems like a country.
Yeah, yeah.
You ready?
What kind of, do you guys have Apple computers at your school?
No, we use a computer.
HP. Okay. Yeah, I know. I feel like Apple computers tend to be a little bit more pricey.
Yeah,
They look nice though.
yeah, they do. Okay, ready?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I think I need to turn my volume up a little bit.
Yeah, Tony, Millie, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but Millie, your audio it's not very loud. We haven't had this problem for a long time, Millie. Tell me about visiting Emma in Spokane. And then when you're doing this, try to move around a little bit. I want you to, I want to test your audio, okay?
Yeah, go closer. So it took like 6 or 7 hours.
How many hours?
6 or 7. And I've been there 2 times. I went one time in a dorm, and then another time we were just outside of it. That was fun. Does it sound any better?
Yeah, Millie, it is sounding a little better. It's not the best that you've sounded. So, but you do have your microphone plugged in?
Yeah.
What would happen if you took your microphone out? Unplug it.
Does it sound any better?
Yes.
Okay.
Tony, does that sound a little better to you?
Yeah, that does sound better. I turned mine up too, so.
Okay, Millie, let's just test again. ABC 1, 2, 3.
ABC 1, 2, 3.
So. One more time.
ABC 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I want you to speak up a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and try this. I'm going to mute myself again. Okay, 3, 2. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Please state your name, where you live, and a job.
My name is Tony Foote, and I am a senior art director for a cosmetics company named Mercier, and I live in New York City, New York, in Lower Manhattan.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Tacoma, Washington.
Nice. Where did you go to elementary school?
I went to Sacred Heart Catholic School in Tacoma.
Do you have a funny story from elementary school, or do you remember one of your favorite teachers?
I don't have a funny story about teachers, but I have a funny story about myself, is that sometimes when my mother would give me something for lunch and I didn't want it, I would put it in my desk. And it would sometimes stay there for a very long time. And I did that more than once.
When you were younger, what jobs did you want to do when you grew up?
I think I wanted to design houses. And so I remember kind of in high school taking draftsman classes where you actually had to design a house and do the drafting. Like I really enjoyed the drafting and the precision of that. So I think that kind of meant, oh, I wanted to be an architect.
Is there any advice you would like to give to elementary age students?
I would say limit your time on social media if you have a phone, for sure.
What do you think would happen with COVID-19 was first talked about in New York City?
I'm sorry, repeat the question again.
What did you think would happen with COVID-19 was first talked about in New York City?
When was it first talked about? Oh my gosh.
What do you think would happen to it?
Well, gosh, I've been working from home since March 13th, and I'm trying to think of when did I first hear about it? Like on the news? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. Like February, maybe?
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you been scared about it at all?
A little bit. I have had some anxiety. I think when we found out that someone in our building where we live has it, but they self-quarantined, that started to kind of, bother me a little bit. But I've been working from home, so I think that keeps my mind off of it until, you turn the news on after 6 o'clock.
Do you think about leaving the city at all?
About living in the city?
Leaving the city.
Oh, leaving the city. Well, right now, no, but you mean ever, after, because of the virus, do you mean?
Yeah, just the whole time when you're hearing about it.
No, I guess, no, that didn't really cross my mind leaving, because I mean, this is home for right now. I don't know where else to go.
What is your educational background?
Well, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts with a emphasis in graphic design.
How did you get involved in the fashion industry?
Well, I guess right after college, I started working for a retailer, Nordstrom. But right after college, though, my first job, it was not doing what I do now. I actually was doing a maintenance job at Nordstrom. So I was, changing light bulbs, cleaning floors, and the HR person was like, well, what do you want to do with your degree? And I said, well, I want to be a graphic designer. And she gave me the contact to call someone in the advertising offices in Seattle. And I ran home after the interview and called that number. And that's how I got an interview at Nordstrom in the advertising department in Seattle. That was the very beginning. So I owe a lot to them.
Yeah. What does an art director do?
An art director basically assembles a team or directs an artist who is creating artwork for a company. So for me, what I do is I book photography teams, and we either shoot fashion on figure or we do still life. For the company that I'm with now, it's mostly still life because it's a cosmetics brand. And all of that is for Instagram right now. Everything is for Instagram.
How do you work with photographers and models?
Well, before the virus, I have a team of people that I work with, and once we decide on the model, we decide on the photographer, where we're going to shoot, if it's going to be on a location or studio. We kind of book the team, and then we all meet at the location or the studio, and we work on set together to do the pictures.
Is there any difference between working in digital, print, and film?
Yes, I mean, I want to say digital. I mean, before everything was digital, everything was kind of done by hand. So photographers shot with film. And so now there's no film, it's all digital, it's all computers. So that's been a big shift. And there's not that much print work right now. I feel like for us, in the beauty business, we have a department that is called the education team. And they tend to produce a lot of print materials still just for the philosophies of our makeup application. And so those are like training materials. That's kind of like what we have for print, but everything else is digital.
Do you like working on digital things more or on print?
I miss doing print, but I've been working mostly digital now, and I do like it, but I do miss the print part.
What is the favorite part of your job?
My favorite part, I have to say that it is working with the different artists, the different photographers, the different makeup artists, and the hair people that you get to work with. But I don't know right now, when is the next time we're going to be able to shoot with this virus going on?
Do you work with any famous models before?
Yes, I think so. If you remember, do you remember Giselle from Victoria's Secret? That's probably, no, yeah. She was pretty famous in the fashion industry. Who else? Oh my gosh. I mean, I used to work at Victoria's Secret, which is kind of, they used to have a catalog, but then at the same time they had a catalog, they also had an online as well. What's another brand that Victoria's Secret had? Pink, Victoria's Secret Pink.
Yeah. How do you feel when you see your work displayed?
When I see my work displayed, it's a good feeling knowing that I was a part of making the image. I kind of feel like when you would see your work in print, it seems to last longer, like if it was in a magazine or a catalog. But now everything is just, on the internet page, and you look at it for a few minutes, or it's in an email that someone gets and you look at the email for 3 seconds and then it disappears.
Yeah. Do you look at other ad campaigns critically?
Any ad campaigns
Critically?
critically? Oh, currently, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
So when you see the other ad campaigns, what do you think?
Oh, other ad campaigns. Well, I mean, it depends on the different brands that are out there, and you're looking at something and you think about what they're trying to portray, what is the message, and nowadays it's changing a little bit. It used to be about using the best photographers and the best models, and of course there's a certain level where everybody can work at for those kinds of projects, but not everyone can afford the best models and the best photographers. So you kind of look at things on that level, in terms of evaluating things that are on the same level, and the second level, and then the third level.
What have been some of your favorite projects that you've done?
Oh my gosh, the favorite projects that I have done. I used to be the senior art director at Calvin Klein. And I have to say that was probably the highlight of my career, working for such a global brand and working on print projects there and digital projects, actually. I still have a couple of the print projects myself, from my records. And it was a men's suit catalog. And it was just for the location here in New York City, to drive traffic and business. But I really enjoyed designing that book. It turned out really, really beautiful.
Cool. Can you describe some unique places when you ran your work?
I missed the last part of the question.
Can you describe some unique places where you've worked before?
Oh, the places that I've worked before. Well, of course, I just said Calvin Klein. I was an art director at Victoria's Secret catalog. I worked at a small advertising agency that actually relocated me to New York. They worked on several retail accounts like Bloomingdale's, Dillard's, and Macy's, and so they wanted my retail catalog experience, so that's why they hired me. But I've also freelanced about half of my career in New York. So I've worked for Sephora, I've worked for Coach, I'm trying to think of there's some brands that you might have heard of. Um, oh my gosh, I can't. I'm thinking now. There's so many. When you freelance, there's so many different clients. Have you heard of Land's End? Land's End is out of Wisconsin. They're a lifestyle brand. What about, I don't know, not Eddie Bauer. What's the one that's in Maine? It slipped my mind.
So when you work with other companies, do you contact them at first? Or do they contact you?
They contact me, and what happens is when you're freelancing, you kind of develop a network of other people that you've worked with, and your name circulates within that group. So the companies will call you based on a recommendation of someone else and your reputation. But for full-time jobs, you are contacted by a recruiter. So I was contacted by a recruiter for this job that I have now at Mercier.
Can you tell us about the role you played in the filming of Night Fits?
I'm sorry, the sound just kind of went down.
Could you tell us about the role you played in the filming of Night Fits?
Oh, that project. Oh my gosh, that I met this cinematographer who wanted to work with an art director, and he brought me in also to manage the stylist and wardrobe. So he wanted me to bring fashion to this film that he had wrote a script for. And it was great because he brought everyone else, from the team as well. So there was, he was actually the director, but he had a cinematographer, and I was the art director, and I had the stylist. So we mostly worked on wardrobe, and we shot. Oh my gosh, it was all night. We did the shoot, pretty much. I think I left at 4 a.m. But shooting a motion picture takes so much. So many people, as opposed to shooting a still image, and it's really fun teamwork, and it can be very long, but in the long, it was really fun. Even though I finished at 4 a.m. and had to go to work the next day.
Yeah. Since we live in a small community, would you like to give any advice to the graduating class of 2020?
I would say to try to discover as many things that you like doing as possible. And to remember after you finish your education that it's possible to have many careers.
All right. So are you all done now, Millie?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you wanted to ask before I ended the recording?
I think that's good. You have a cool job. That's what I want to say.
Well,
Oh, thank you. Well, I enjoyed answering the questions and sharing.
So Millie, I think one of the things, Tony, you're trying to remember LL Bean.
Yes, LL Bean, that's exactly right.
Yes. And Millie, I think you were also wanting to know some interesting places, locations where Tony works. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So could you describe some interesting locations maybe where you have done some work, Tony?
I would say, and this was through Victoria's Secret, I went to the Dominican Republic, and we shot for about a week there. The most glamorous, I want to say, was St. Bart's. St. Bart's was beautiful. I mean, I could not believe we were shooting there. And it's very expensive to shoot there. I can't imagine what it took for them to fly 3 crews out to St. Bart's. I think those 2 places are the most, exciting for me. There were a lot of routine places that I've been, like you would shoot in LA, you would shoot in Miami. So those are, they're not exciting, but they're part of the job, and there's like locations that are very commonly used and people go to the same places.
And one other question that Millie and I discussed, and I think it kind of got lost in our little flub before, and that was, and we had an interview with Rich Marriott from King 5. He's a weatherman today. And that was when this first happened, did you ever imagine that things would end up the way they are right now?
Oh, there he goes.
There we go. Okay, something happened there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. So there you go, Millie. And I was afraid because it almost like I thought it stopped recording, or it stopped. Um, we just lost connection. So I'll try that question, asking that question again.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah. So when this pandemic was announced, in your mind, did you ever think that you would be living the reality that you are right now? What were your expectations, or what were you thinking about, social isolation? Yeah, we'll be isolated for 2 weeks, and then we'll get on with our life. And what were your thoughts, initial thoughts?
I felt like it was going to be fairly temporary and very short-lived. I think I'm feeling now that we kind of take things for granted, that we used to be able to go out to dinner, or we used to see our friends and just walk around the city and see people. I think I didn't think it was going to last this long.
Yeah, me too.
Just really.
Yeah. And I think what I'd like to do is, Millie, could you ask him, because we were talking about this before we started recording, and I think it's good insight. And Millie, could you ask him what life is like around New York City? Remember, Tony told you about that a little bit, but it'd be nice to get this in the recording, and then maybe Mrs. Madding could edit it in.
So, like when you go to the grocery store or anything, or when you go outside, what's happening out there? Is there anybody out there or anything?
So it's kind of sad to say that the most exciting part of the day or the weekend is going to the grocery store. So walking through my neighborhood, it's very empty. Very few people are outside. Everybody's wearing a mask. You have to wait in line 6 feet apart at the grocery store just to get in. I think the one thing that I really I didn't like is going into the store. You're shopping and walking around, and you're trying to be safe apart, away from other people. But I think noticing someone else being a little, quick to move and be almost afraid, I think that really, really got to me. I was just like, oh my gosh. And, I'm trying to be polite too, but it just, when I saw that person move, like startling almost, it just kind of got to me. But it's quite strange to see my neighborhood, which the financial district is really busy all the time before the virus. And now it's just, like 10, I look out the window now and I see like maybe 4 people on the street.